of this document. He's the one who wrote the citation of the document, and I thought that I couldn't do it in his absence because I would be cheating him. So you need to clap for General Angina for taking up that I wouldn't have gone that far, because for me I'm sometimes on and off. He pursued it until publication, until now. When it came to answering the questions, I realized that I was not competent to answer those questions, the privatization, the liberalization. I was anti-privatization myself, as you all know. I tried to interfere with because I couldn't believe, I was not a believer in the privatization. That's how I ended up making all those mistakes I ended up with. So I called Professor Nwagawa, asked him, what is economics? At the beginning, he really, that's how we became friends. So he told me that why is income? Is that income? Why? Yeah, that y equals c plus m plus r plus minus 5 minus. And I told him, please, Professor, you tell me in Ruchiga what does that mean? He said, but how can I? It is just, you know how arrogant he is. He said, but you people, that's why you are calculating. That's why. I said, please, you go slow. We have got to answer these questions. So you go through them slowly, and then he said, that one will take me like a few minutes. Indeed, it took him less than 2 weeks to go through what the NRM was saying are their critical success factors. And then we asked them, now, you will go through what the president has said in his economics and give him score him on security, and you give him a score. On privatization and liberalization, give him a score. On all those parameters, which he did very well. So, I don't know what comes first. That's why I thought that when you are launching, then I got in touch with the think tank, UDF, Uganda Development Forum. I told them, because we are trying to demilitarize, because OWC is militaristic. So you cannot, if this meeting had been organized by OWC, many people would not have turned up. So I took another direction and said, let us start a forum that belongs to all of you, to the agencies. And we started this in 2014. It was chaired by UDB at the beginning for 2 years. Then it was chaired by UDC. It was chaired by UDC for 2 years. Now they were proposing me to be the chair for the next 2 years, which I'm going to decline because it is your organization. It is a member-based organization of these authorities, of state and non-state actors. So before you end, I think part of the resolution will be to elect a chairman who is going to take you through the next 2 years, because I can bring problems to your organizations. So, how do we proceed now? Charles, do you want to chip in and input? Mm.
Once you finish that stage, then I may come in at the stage of reminding them of the citation and why we picked this particular name, which is in line with the many other people who have transformed their countries using their strength and being radical in wanting to achieve the end state.
No
then we can come in at that stage, sir.
No problem. So after I talked to Professor Nwagawa, I went and talked to members of parliament, those ones of PACOB. I told them, I have looked through the budget, but I don't see Musevenomics inside this budget. And they were headed at that time by the chief whip, who later became the deputy speaker. I'm lucky to see Dr. Agnes Atim here. She was a member. Remigio Achia, I think you were a member, and others. And that was their report. They went through it. They saw what I was saying, and they went through the report, and they made very serious recommendations on the budget. Because we asked, if this budget is not based on the factors of production, then what is it for? So they went through it, land. We thought that the biggest budget for Uganda would go to land, because in our own analysis, land of today is the most distorted factor of production in this area where you are seated. In Bulemez, it's a big problem. Number two was labor. Labor is the most unstudied subject. We think we are creative, but we have not studied labor to its full extent, I think. Number three, capital. Capital, Mzee Kasaija is going to be proudly tell us how much he has invested, but I'm very grateful to him that he has finally invested at the parish level. That one you need to really, because that is capital at the lowest level. Next. Entrepreneurship. We don't have managers. That's one of the problems. Next. Knowledge. It needs to be discussed. Market is a big subject. We have not even started discussing it. Next. The conclusion there. The conclusion of the parliamentarians on that committee, in conclusion, the distortions in the factors of production will not self-correct. It will rather take deliberate policy actions, including those informed by additional studies and/or consultations to fully understand the existing distortions and how they can be addressed. So that was from the parliamentary group. Unfortunately, the budget didn't consider most of the actions, but really you can't handle. When I talked to my former colleague, the PS, Rama, Dr. Mwalimu Rama, these days he talks like those previous PSs. I know if he was here, he would really, his head would blow out. Well, he told me these days he uses this thing of cutting a finger. That instead of injuring the 4 fingers and they stay there, you cut one. So he says he has cut the one of PDM. Next he's going to cut the one of land. Then the next, I said, but how long it's going to take you to cut all my 10 fingers now? Because now, land, as a factor of production, if it is not, the value, if the value is not released, then you are not doing much. But that is for the professor to highlight. So having given you this introduction, I'm emphasizing the history of this site, this one here. The history of the of Kaumu. The history of Kaumu is that it's where the NRC, National Resistance Council, the parliament, they were seated down here in the forest, and I was watching them somewhere here. Because for me, I was a soldier. So I saw these guys seated, Mzee Katenta, Mzee Chigongo, Mzee Mukwaya, Zizinga, Mrs. Zinjua. They said that they are members of the National Resistance Council, the future parliament. I told them that you people, you are dreaming. How can you dream about the future parliament when we are going to get finished here in the bush? But if you look for that photograph, it is a very historic photograph. Then, for me, that is 1985, I think, April. That was me here. I was seated down there. in the Musevenomics thing. I was 25 years old. So, but I was the most, this come here to cross the swamp. That's where Mzee left us. He left me here, and he told Fred, the late Fred Rijema, to go to open the Western Front. And I remember in my diary at that time I wrote, "Dear Lord, help me, help these poor souls who have remained under my command." I said, because now the man has been your commander. You don't have headache. Whatever you get, you refer. But now you are the Alpha and Omega. I told him. So this was at the further down there, crossing the River Mayanja. So, having said all that, Chibuka, we shall not go into the Namunkekera issues. I have already discussed with them the distortions of land at Namunkekera. We are not going to go through that. Let us focus on the Musevenomics, so that when Professor Nwagaba, I don't know how long he's going to take, but he has helped me. But I have challenged him also with others, because after he wrote, then I called Chris Mukiza, the one of statistics, because they can't talk, you know, these two. One is from London School of Economics, another is from another school. And Professor Nwagaba cannot talk 5 words without referring to London School of Economics. So I gave him the chance. But first of all, you look at his CV. You just look at the CV only. This is Professor Nwagaba's CV. You climb up, go up, go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There is nothing he has not researched about, except M7. So now, it is my honor and privilege to invite Professor Nwagaba to come and highlight the issues related to this work. Thank you.